The original idea for this video was pretty exciting. I was to take the Harley out on a big desert loop for 5 days into the Aussie outback, the Pan America in the Aussie outback, something I was really looking forward to and had a fantastic loop put aside. Places I'd never been before and some places that I absolutely love visiting and really wanted to show you guys as well. Unfortunately, at the end of day one, we had some issues with the bike. So I contacted Harley-Davidson Australia and we both agreed the bike should not be heading into a remote area and needed to get to a service centre as soon as possible. Now, shit happens. I've been doing this long enough to know that, and when I got to the dealership, it was a 10-minute fix. What had happened was a software glitch. It was a newly updated software package that was rolled back to the previous. I then rode 560 kilometres home and never had a problem. In fact, I was so confident in the bike when I got home that everything was fixed that I planned another 2-day ride up in the mountains, and that's where we pick up this video. It really was good to finally hit the dirt. I was disappointed not to be on a desert road, but heading into the valley with a quality crew was a pretty good consolation. That's my mate Monkey up ahead on his first adventure bike, and he's loving it. Look at him standing up, he's already got better technique than me. Hey Monkey! Yeah, I better stand up, yeah? Who am I kidding? I am too lazy. And there's Sneddo and Blackie taking in the views. It is impossible to ride through here and not appreciate the landscape at multiple points. There's a random dude on a Norden doing the same thing. We ran into him a few times during the day. I had 2 days to get to know the Harley better on this ride, and the vibes were all good. It's amazing how the countryside can have that effect on you. It's therapeutic. Riding is therapy. And me and the bike had turned a page in our relationship. The clouds threatened, but it never rained, and the dirt was prime. These are the days you'll remember in the end. Sitting on a bike, not sitting at a desk. We grabbed a quick feed, and Sneddo went for the epic palmy. Hey, nice shirt. Monkey had a good looking burger, and I rate the schnitty with mushy sauce. But whatever Blackie had looked like it was passed through a small dog first. Unfortunately, the boys had to turn back after lunch, which left me alone with the Harley again for the rest of the ride. I'd already put about 1,500 road kilometres on the bike with my abbreviated first ride, so I knew it was comfortable to be on all day, but this was the first time I'd been able to get in the dirt for any length of time, which is the only surface I'm really interested in. I found, once again, that the Pan America was comfy. It benefits greatly from that semi-active suspension soaking up all the small bumps without the need to report back on each and every one. You can choose to run the suspension with a soft or a firm feel, and I stuck with firm and appreciated the ride it offered, which allowed me to get a bit more aggressive if the mood took me, or to sit back and relax. Also, changing from one feel to the other requires stopping the bike to access the settings menu, which isn't something you'll want to do a lot during a ride day, and I didn't feel the need anyway. The bike was stable and balanced with a predictable feel from both the front and the back, a sure sign that suspension and chassis match is spot on. It's hard to find a direct comparison in the adventure world to the Revolution Max 1250 engine. It's quiet and incredibly smooth, which disguises its 150 horsepower output. Its delivery feels more like a roided up V-Strom than bikes that also share that mammoth output like a Multistrada or a 1290 Adventure. It does like to rev though, and it pulls through that range with no discernible drop off. If you do get some right wrist mongrel, it will take off like a stabbed rat. You can change modes on the fly, with changes taking effect immediately as you flick between sport, road, rain, off-road, off-road plus and custom modes. I spent most of my time in off-road plus. You can also alter the power delivery, the throttle response and the engine braking, which gives you a great deal of fine-tuning and personalisation. I found the system to be easy to learn, easy to remember and easy to use while you're riding. Harley has done a good job at offering a practical system that doesn't go too far, but doesn't lack anything obvious. Given the relatively low ground clearance of the Pan America, I wasn't keen to go feral on the bike, but I did point it down some trails that offered more of a challenge than just a dirt road. The output is super easy to control on loose surfaces, and the traction control is particularly good, so you do feel confident in poking around on those side trails. It's let down by tiny foot pegs, but otherwise it offers a good feel when you're standing up, and the Brembo brakes are absolutely outstanding in both the feel and the power. There are limits, of course, and the aggression factor gets dialed down as the tracks get more technical, but the bike holds its line across ruts, loose rocks and off cambers, with the steering damper helping to keep that 19-inch front wheel from hunting. It's not in line to take on a 1290 Adventure or an Africa Twin when the trails get technical, but that's not what the Harley is about. And by now I'd come to understand that the Pan America fits the adventure tourer brief so very well. In fact, aside from some small details which I'll get into soon, it's one of the more impressive adventure touring offerings I've ridden. And given this is the company's first attempt, that should worry the competition to a degree. So at this point, we're going to take a little bit of a detour and get back on the road. And I'm going to learn a little bit about what it's like to be part of the Harley world. And I'm going to ride a bike that's almost twice the size of the Pan America. The really interesting thing about having a Harley in the house is that I have no historical reference to the brand. I come from a dirt bike background, not a road bike background, so I've never ridden one. I've never even sat on one, I don't think. The only time I ever rode a cruiser was, I believe it was a Yamaha V-Star, and it was so bad I think I'd just take the bus instead of owning one of those. So it's really interesting to have this bike in the house and try and understand how it fits in, how it makes people move. For me, I understand when I've got a Tenere, because I used to have a YZ80, that was my first bike. My second bike was an IT200. If I've got a KTM here, one of my favorite bikes of all time was my 200 EXC. If I have a Suzuki, I used to have a DR650. There's always these touch points with other brands, but for me with Harley, I don't have anything. So what I'm going to do today is catch up with my mate Chris Murphy, who knows all that you need to know about Harley-Davidson. He lives and breathes it, and he has a very big one. So we're going to go, and I mean his bike, by the way. So we're going to go out together on our Harleys, and he's going to school me on everything about Harley-Davidson, what I don't understand, and why it works so well for so many people. I do have a question.
Yeah.
How do you change gears? You got?
Yeah, there you go. Well,
oh, this is so comfortable. It's so big. God, if this thing falls over, you'd have to call Schwarzenegger in to lift it back up. Everybody get to the chopper. I've got to pick up another Harley. If you had told me a little while ago that I'd be riding an Ultraglide one day and having a great time doing it, I would have told you that you were high. But here I am. This is fun. And it was good to see Chris enjoying the Pan America too. We stopped for a quick beer and I asked Chris, does the Pan America still feel like a Harley to him? Chris, did you enjoy your time on the Pan America?
well, Damien, I tell you, it's been a long time since I've ridden an off-road bike, and I was very surprised how comfortable this was.
Yeah.
I was expecting it not to be as smooth as it was on the road.
And you're getting off the ultimate comfort machine.
Oh yeah, I ride an Ultra.
So, yeah. So what year is your Ultra?
That's a 2013.
And how many Ultras have you had now?
Three.
Yeah.
You know, so I have spoilt myself. Yeah. That's why I was a little bit concerned about getting on an adventure bike because of the different setup. Surprised at the height of it compared to like the Ultras actually sits quite low. Where this sits up high, but then it actually very comfortable because I'm quite a tall guy. Yep. So I found it very, very comfortable to ride. I could feel today I was still part of the Harley family being on this.
Yeah. Oh, you could.
Yeah. You know, I could still feel like different sound of the Ultra and things like that, but I could still feel there was part of the Harley family, but a different
Yeah.
A different cousin, if you'd like to say. Sort of thing.
Yeah.
Overall, I was really, really impressed. And we knocked out a couple of Ks today, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
how do we get you on an adventure bike?
Well,
is this your decision or Heather's decision?
Well, yeah. Could you speak to my wife?
Maybe Sue's. I'll get Sue's to speak to your wife.
Get your girl
mine
to speak to my wife
yours,
because, if I was going to get an adventure bike, this would be one of them.
The last bike I thought I'd ever ride would be your bike.
Yeah.
It's just not my bag at all, and I just had a ball today. I loved it. Thanks for letting me ride your Ultraglide, mate.
Thanks very much, buddy.
Let's do it again.
Let's do it again for sure.
On the dirt.
Okay, yes.
All right.
Can you get another one?
Yeah, we'll ask.
Yeah, we'll ask them.
All right, can we have 2, Harley, please?
Thank you.
I can see riders happily exploring routes like this on the Harley for days on end. This was my 5th day on the bike and I'd have been happy to do more, because they got the basics right, and this is undeniably a fun and capable bike to ride. Put yourself in this landscape on the Pan America and you'll love every minute. Push into tougher terrains and you'll find there are better choices as the trails get more beaten up with longer travel suspension and lighter scale weights. But a lot of riders never want to ride stuff like that, and you never really have to. If this is your idea of adventure, you could disappear for years and never see the same track twice. The Pan America Special is an impressive first effort from Harley-Davidson, and it shows that the company understands the core of what's needed in an adventure tourer. But there's no doubt we're seeing a bike in the very early stages of its evolution, and there is still work to do to refine the smaller but very important details. There have been some unusual choices made in finishing off the Pan America, and we're going to go over a few now to give you a more complete picture of the Harley that, yes, pissed me off to start with. But from there, it honestly impressed me with how good it was. And while there is room for improvement, if Harley commits to this concept, I don't think it'll only be Harley diehards that'll be drawn to it. Harley has undoubtedly done a good job at gifting the Pan America a very solid base. The engine, suspension and chassis package is very good. So if we have a look at the electronics, I really don't have much to complain about there. It's very easy to use. It's not a complex package, but it's not a simple package. You're not getting shortchanged here. There's nothing that I wished I had that I didn't have. I intentionally didn't get any sort of lesson on how to use any of the electronics, which is a little unusual for a test bike, because I wanted to know how intuitive it was. I wanted to know how easy it was for me to learn on the fly. Now, if you contrast that to the Africa Twin, I'm constantly having to look at YouTube videos and relearn stuff because it's so damn complex. The Harley, though, is very easy to use. But then it starts to get a little weird because you get into the smaller details. That TFT screen, which is excellent, sits very low. So if you want to mount anything on the bars, like your phone or your GPS, you're almost certainly going to obscure your vision of the TFT screen. Then you look at the switch blocks. They have a lot of buttons on both of them. They're soft touch, not high raised. They're nice looking buttons, but they're not illuminated. So as soon as the sun goes down, you can't see a thing. And it's very hard to tell which buttons you're looking for because there are so many buttons. If you're wearing winter gloves, forget it. It's impossible to find the button that you're looking for. The foot pegs, they're made only for road, and they need to be removed immediately if you're going to do stuff off-road. These crash bars are very good. I know this not because I dropped the bike while I was riding, but because it fell off the stand twice in my driveway. The stand is one of the worst stands I've ever seen. It's spectacularly bad. There's no 12-volt socket, charging socket at the front of the bike. There's only a lone USB-C out from the side of the TFT screen. That's an interesting choice. The first thing I did when I was preparing to go for the ride was to mount my phone and look for somewhere to put the USB cord into. There isn't anything. That's an interesting choice. Now, under the seat, there are 2 leads for heated garments, which you can apparently attach an adapter to and run a lead from under the seat to under the tank to up to the bars, and forget it, just put a 12-volt socket on there. The handguards are very lightweight. They won't hold up too much in the way of off-road abuse, so you'll want to swap those out. I believe Barkbusters has just released a new set for the Pan America. That's a good place to start. And lastly, the rear rack is plastic, which means you can't use it to manhandle the bike around. It only has a 2.5 kilo load limit as well. Now, if you load that up for a solid trip here in Australia, you're definitely going to hit some fairly vicious corrugations, and I don't know if that rack will stand up to any sort of punishment like that. I'm very keen to see how Harley develops this bike moving forward, and keeping in mind it is up against very established competition who have had decades to iron out the bugs. This is their very first attempt, and if they do address some of these annoyances, this bike will firm itself up to be one of the better choices in the upper echelons of the adventure tourer market.